And now,
The time has come
for you to shit your pants for your life. Honey, I had to go to the nearest church after watching this because I felt dirty. I felt like I had partaken in the devil's work. And I was not here for it, but I was like, give me more. Ay, en nombre del Padre, del Hijo, y del Espíritu Santo. Oh my God. Hey guys, it's me, Zaven. So for today's video, I thought we might review the latest, the darkest, the most sinisterest movie that has come out in the movie theaters, darling. The Nun. So without any further ado, let's get into it, honey. So, The Nun tells the story of Father Burke and Sister Irene, who are summoned to the outskirts of Romania, darling, to investigate the mysterious and suspicious death of a nun who committed suicide. But it turns out to be something much darker than it actually is, honey. When I tell you that this movie will have your panties wet, and not for the sexy kind that I like when I go see a Channing Tatum movie. No. This is for the kind of reason that you need Depends, bitch. Thank God I had my Depends on, cause I needed the shit. I was not ready for what was coming for this movie. I was not ready, but I was summoned, so I had to go. I couldn't resist. Oh, honey, this movie's not for the faint of heart or for the weak of mind. This movie was so good, so right, and for a movie addict like me, honey, who needs his fix every month, this movie was made for me. Let's get into it, let's dig deep, let's dive in. Let's get to the pros before we get to the cons. Because there are more pros than cons, but there's still cons, but there are more pros. So let's get into it. So as for the pros, this movie, it just did its job. It scared the Liberace out of me. I'm telling you, my panties were wet. I was not ready, but I was ready. What was so interesting about this movie is that yes, it was scary and it's part of the Conjuring universe. I personally held it to a very high standard because it's not your run-of-the-mill horror movie. I mean, it's The Conjuring. It's one of the greatest movies of the 21st century, honey. And part 1 was great, part 2 was great, Annabelle 2 was great. You know, the other one was great. But I held it to a very high standard because I was like The Nun, Valak, I fell in love with her in The Conjuring 2, I was hooked, I was in, I was ready. But what I was not ready for was the scenery, darling, the cinematography. It was like something Oscar worthy. It was dynamic. I mean, it looked medieval. I thought Mel Gibson was gonna make a pop-up appearance. It was very medieval. It was very, because it was set in 1952 in the outskirts of Romania, so it had a very medieval kind of vibes. And also it was very dark and very dry, you know, it was very, not somewhere I want to be after dark, you know what I'm saying? Or the day, don't call me. But I digress. But something that real horror movie addicts like myself will enjoy is the fact that there was a good balance of jump scares and build creeped in scares. You know those scares? Because, you know, I watch a lot of modern horror movies, and a lot of these horror movies have this thing where it's like a jump scare every 2 minutes for no reason. It has no substance, it has no meat, no juice. And with this movie, what I loved is that there were a good balance of real sinister scares that literally, oh my God, like I cannot tell you. It was so creepy. Like I literally almost punched the bitch next to me because there was a moment where you didn't think something was gonna happen, because I mean, I've seen enough horror movies to know when things is gonna go down. You know what I'm saying? I know my horror. I know my calculations, I do the chemistry, I do the vibes. But with these horror movies, it's like they think that you have to have a jump scare every time for no reason with no substance. I mean, I had to stop taking my grandmother to horror movies. She ended up in the hospital twice because I took her to watch a horror movie. I had to stop. I had to leave her at home with her medication because I couldn't take it anymore. I mean, having to go to Mount Sinai every time I watch a horror movie? No, nobody has time for that. But with this movie, I was ready for it because whenever something scary happened, it was because shit was about to go down. I loved it. I was here for it. And the times where it was scary because things were in the background, you had to almost notice things to happen because things almost crept up on you when you weren't expecting it, and you felt uncomfortable because there was no real boom sound effect or anything like that. So it was like, am I seeing correctly? Is the nun behind her? What is this? Am I going crazy? Did I forget to take my medication today? So it was that kind of vibe where it was just like so eerie, so dark, and you were just like, oh my God, I think I just defecated myself. That kind of vibe. And I was so here for it. Oh! And it was funny because this movie followed some of the regular horror movie tropes, but it also had a lot of surprises and things that I wasn't expecting, because I had an idea from watching past Conjuring movies. I had an idea, but again, I hold The Conjuring to another standard, because The Conjuring to me, I just put it on a pedestal because it's like, I mean, James Wan created a masterpiece, honey. I mean, you can't compare. But I mean, I've seen enough horror movies to know, okay, well, you this one, so you're gonna die next. You're the virgin or whatever, so you might have a leg missing, but you'll be good. You'll probably survive. But this movie, I didn't know. I was like, are these people gonna die? Is this gonna be like a Texas Chainsaw kind of vibe where everybody dies and we're left with the nun just roaming the earth? I didn't know what to expect because I was like, are they really gonna kill a nun in this movie like that? But I mean, even with the trailer, you know the nun hangs herself, so this is not a surprise. Nuns hang themselves, bitches hanging, like it's that kind of crazy. So even from the beginning, you know that nobody's safe. If nuns are hanging off cliffs and dying and shit, we can only go downhill from here. So it's like, it doesn't matter if they kill dogs, babies, grandmothers. So I didn't know what to expect. I was nervous, but I was on the edge of my seat. I was so hooked. I was like, oh my gay Jesus, this is too much, but give me more. Don't stop. Give me more. But I digress. I say all that to say is that there was a good balance of, yes, there was some crazy jump scares that will leave you hooked, and there were some scares that were like crept up on you and you were like, ooh, I felt uncomfortable, but give me more. And it wasn't, you know, those $5 hooker jump scares that you're just not here for. Like, it's cute for like the millisecond, but then you're like, really, bitch? Really? Now, even though I thought the movie was great, it scared me. The cinematography was great. The scenery was fantastic. The acting was phenomenal. Everything was good. The casting and everything, yes. Now, onto the cons. I do have some issues, some concerns, some questions. They did say, prior to the movie being released, they did say that this was supposed to be the origin story, the Valak story. Tell me more. Behind the curtain, darling. I want to know the birth of Valak. But I felt that when they did say Valak's story, it did feel a little rushed. I was like expecting a full-length analysis. I was expecting chemistry. I was expecting a little bit of her story. I was wanting to know more because I was like, what was the birth? Like, what is going on? I want to know. Yes. Oh, but I mean, but this movie left me with some issues, and not the kind that you can get rid of with a pill from the free clinic. I still had questions, concerns, because this movie was supposed to be the origin story. We were supposed to get to the meat of who Valak is as the demon, or as I like to call her, my 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Davis. You know who you are, you evil But I digress. I feel like this movie brushed over the origin story while telling it. I feel like it was very rushed at some points when it was actually telling how Valak was born in a way. And I was just a little bit disappointed with that because I wanted to see an in-depth analysis of who Valak is and what the purpose of Valak is and why the demon is roaming the earth. We got an answer, but it wasn't enough for me to be like, holy I didn't get that feeling after seeing the story. I was left with more of a, okay, I guess it'll do. But I wanted more. A little disappointed. But that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. But no, it's not okay. I lied. I'm not okay with it. Because how could you say it's an origin story, but you just brush over the origin story in like 2 minutes? No. No. I will not stand. I object.
I object.
Calm down. But I digress. But I thought the cast was fantastic. I mean, Thaisa Farmiga, related to the legendary Vera Farmiga, who's also the queen of the Conjuring universe. I mean, I thought she was great as the pre-nun, because she's not a nun yet. She's almost a nun, maybe until she meets Frenchie.
Beauty school dropout.
No, not that Frenchie from Greece. Another Frenchie. He's very cute, he's very handsome, he's very funny. He adds a lot of the comedic elements to the movie, and God knows this movie needs a little bit of comedy, because this shit was dark. He brings the lightness to it because this movie gets really dark, so we needed that comedic element. Some of the jokes were good, some of them were a little bit corny and cheesy, but it was okay. I forgave it. It was cute. But I thought he did a great performance. Frenchie was great. I thought everybody just brought their A game to this performance because it was just so enjoyable. You were invested, but you wanted more. I feel like the only thing that I felt is like I wanted to know more. I was left with blue balls because I wanted to know more about Valak. I wanted to know more about the priest. I wanted to know more about the nun. I wanted to know more about everybody, and I felt like this movie sometimes rushed over things just to get to the juicy horror parts. And I was like, no. Take your time. We're here because we love the franchise. I feel like the director just needs to remember that, yes, it is horror. We want to be scary, but it's okay to explain. Take your time and build the scare. Don't just slap it in my face like a whore. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think this movie did its job. I think this is perfect. Go see it if you're a horror movie fan. Go see it with friends. Go see it alone. Go see it with that friend you hate who has heart problems. Go see this movie, even though I do have some problems with the way it was told at some points. Overall, this movie is probably right second or first as the top scariest of the Conjuring universe. This movie was really, really scary. Like, no joke. There were times where I was like, It was so crazy. I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot, but it was so worth it. But even though I think this was probably the scariest one of the franchise, this was not the most substantial horror of The Conjuring. I think this was probably one of the lesser ones because it didn't have a good story in the sense. It had great scares, it had great cinematography, great acting and all that, but the story was lacking a little bit. I was just left with some questions. You know, I was just not satisfied with the story because I felt like it was okay. I mean, this movie was made for the shock value. It was made for the horror effect. I get it that it wasn't necessarily made to make people think, but I'm not mad at analytical horror. I'm just not. I'm just saying. But I felt like that movie was lacking something. If you want to go see a horror movie with substance like that, this might not be your horror movie, but it's a good horror movie, especially considering all the shit that's been coming out lately. So watch it if you're a fan of horror movies. I'm telling you. But there were scenes in this movie that just had me like, ugh, like there were snakes going into orifices that should not be going into. This movie had scenes that really just got to me like so bad. I was just like, my asshole was so clenched in some scenes because I was like, nope, nope, nope. Turn around, call Uber. Overall, I think I give this movie an 8.5 out of 10. I think this movie scared the Whitney Houston out of me. Story was, you know, shaky grounds, but I thought overall a solid horror movie. Solid. Not the best in the Conjuring universe, but one of the scariest, top 2 scariest ones for sure. You will be scared. But anyways guys, that is all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and let me know if you liked the movie. If you didn't like the movie, what do you think? Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that bell, and until next time darlings, don't forget to keep it right, keep it tight, and I'll see you next time. Bye.